So welcome everyone. We're gonna talk about rain barrels tonight. My name is Chris Corvetti. I'm a rain barrel specialist here in the Bay Area. And with us tonight is Jeanette from Mid-Peninsula Water District. And we are also sponsored by the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency. So we're gonna talk a little bit about participating in today's program. So everyone's going to be muted except myself and Jeanette. And I will pause periodically kind of at the end of slides to take questions. To ask your questions, just type them in the Q&A in the bottom of the screen, and Jeanette's going to be keeping an eye on that. And when I pause to take a breath or a sip of water, Jeanette's going to jump in and read your questions out loud. The other option that we're going to use at the end is to raise your hand. So if you have a really pressing question and there's just no way to type it up, go ahead and raise your hand. And if we see that, we'll pause and take it. But at the end of the presentation, we're going to open up the Q&A where it'll be easier for folks to be able to speak their questions. And during the presentation, it's a little bit easier to just use that Q&A button at the bottom. So let's practice right now. If everyone could raise their hand.
I see Rita, Marianne, Gary, JJ, LK.
Yeah, we got a couple more that. Okay, so go ahead and put your hands down by clicking that same button again. Excellent. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about BASCWA, the Bay Area Water Supply and Conservation Agency. So BASCWA represents 26 agencies that include cities, water districts, a water company, a university that purchases water wholesale from the regional water system. They provide water to over 1.8 million people and over 40,000 businesses and community organizations in Alameda, Santa Clara, and San Mateo counties. Their goal is to provide a high-quality supply of water at a fair price. The program objectives are for this is the outdoor water use represents the single largest untapped opportunity for water conservation in the BASCWA service area. Outdoor water use reduction through the use of water efficient plants and innovative techniques can help conserve water and ensure that future water supply needs of our communities are met. So they have this whole wonderful program. And as part of that program, they have a Lawn Be Gone rebate, which is for transforming your landscaping. And more pertinent to tonight's program is the rain barrel rebate, where you can get up to $200 back from your purchase of your rain barrels. And in San Mateo County, all residents can receive up to $150, but all Mid-Peninsula Water District residents get an extra $50 per system. So if you take a look, if you're doing a 50 to 99 gallon system, you could actually get up to $100 because you get the county-wide 50 plus the Mid-Peninsula 50. So it would be $100 total. And then graduating up to 150 if you're in between that 100 and 199 gallon capacity. And if you're getting a cistern, which is 200 gallons or more, you're looking at the full $200 rebate with that additional $50 from the Mid-Penn Water District. Additional ways to save, these are some new programs over the last couple of years. They have a smart controller rebate program, as well as a rain garden rebate program. And you can find more information about those at bayareaconservation.org. They'd like us to share with you some upcoming programs, and I'll put this on the screen again at the end of the presentation. And another great resource to take a look at is bayareagardening.org. So with all that intro covered, we're going to head into rainwater harvesting and rain barrels specifically.
And not to cut you off there, Chris, but we did have a couple questions already. So did you want to get going and then we'll jump into those two questions? Or...
I think we'll hold questions till I've covered at least anything about rain barrels, and maybe they'll be covered in the presentation.
Sounds good.
Wonderful, thank you. So rainwater harvesting, everyone knows is going to lower your water bill because we're taking water from the rain, from the roof, and using it instead of our water. But there's other things to consider. You can reduce the moisture around your building. You can add aesthetic value. They require less maintenance than a conventional watering system. You get this connection to nature where you're thinking about where your water's coming from a little bit more, and using rainwater, which is a little healthier for your plants because it's not as chlorinated. And it actually improves the water quality in creeks because it can reduce polluted runoff. The other thing that I find really interesting for this Bay Area is that our water travels 8 days to get here. A significant amount of our water comes from Hetch Hetchy. It takes 8 days to get all the way to us, just travel time. And, that's kind of a very unique situation for the Bay Area to have our water imported from so far away because we don't have that snowmelt here in the Bay. We have that snowmelt in the Sierras that we use. So thinking about where our water's coming from and trying to use the water that we do get. And that's really interesting because most people think there isn't enough rainwater in the Bay, but there actually is. So if you take a look at this equation, a 1,000 square foot roof can capture over 600 gallons of rainwater from 1 inch of rain. So this wonderful equation shows that we can actually get a lot of water just from the rain we have here in the Bay Area. So in an average rain event here is about half an inch. A 1,000 square foot roof could capture over 300 gallons of water. Over the course of the year, we get about 25 inches in San Mateo County. Significantly lower than the national average, but it's still a lot of rain. That 1,000 square foot roof has over 15,000 gallons of water that touch it over the course of that year. And a lot of that could be captured because we use our water in between storms. So taking a look at the basic flow of a watershed, when it rains, I'm gonna try to do this with a pen. When it rains, our water hits our landscaping and some of it infiltrates into the soil. And some of it hits these buildings and it can't infiltrate into the soil. And so it gets run off into our creeks. And especially here in the Bay Area, we have an issue called flashing, where our rain is a flash of rain, and that first rain just can't quite infiltrate the ground. It can't quite soak in. So we get some runoff over the top of the ground. And we get a lot of runoff on the impervious surfaces, on pavement, and on houses as well. So if you think about when it rains here, how much water you see running down the side of the road and into our storm drains. And that water can carry a lot of pollution with it. You can have pollution from pet waste, from vehicles, from just rubbish that's ended up blowing out of garbage cans or has been left on the side of the road, soaps, oils, pesticides, herbicides, all sorts of different pollutions that get flushed into our storm drains with that first bit of rain that is hitting those impervious surfaces and gets taken straight into our storm drains. And now our storm drains don't get treated. So all of our household waste, anything that comes from inside our house, you can see it on the left side of this picture, it goes to the wastewater treatment plant, it gets treated, and it comes out nice and clean after it's treated. But everything that is not from inside our house, everything outside of our house, all of that rainwater goes into the storm drain. And a lot of times you'll see these on the side of the road. You'll see signs that say no dumping flows to bay, no dumping flows to ocean, flows to creek. And that's exactly what it does. There is no filter on that. There is no treatment. That water goes straight into the creeks, into the bay, and into the ocean. So it carries all of those pollutants with it. So what we want to do is something called slow it, spread it, and sink it. And that's trying to slow down the water so that we can spread it out and sink it into the ground so that those pollutants don't get carried with it. They get stopped and they get filtered through the ground before reaching our creeks so that we can have healthier creeks, healthier wildlife, and healthier fish. So rain barrels are a great way to help us slow the water down because that's exactly what they do. They take your first, however size your system is of water, and capture it and hold it in this nice big tank. So that is slowing that water down. And then when you use that water later, you are spreading it out on your garden, and it is sinking into the ground and being used by the plants. And you're not going to be using the water from your rain barrel when it's actively raining. You're going to be using it after the rain to allow that water to nourish your plants and to soak into the ground when the ground's able to absorb it. So it's a great way to slow it, spread it, and sink it. So we are storing that runoff for later use. And this helps decrease your use of municipal water for your irrigation. It can reduce flooding and sewer overflows for some areas that have sewer systems that end up connecting in. And it definitely decreases soil erosion because you have less water running straight from your downspouts into your landscaping when we have a big storm. And we already talked about the other great benefits. So let's take a look at the anatomy of a rain barrel. So this is a 265 gallon cistern. We say cistern because it's over 200 gallons, which means it holds a lot of water. And this is a slimline tank, so it's a tall, skinny tank. This particular one is installed at Gamble Gardens in Palo Alto. So if you get excited about this and you want to check it out, that's where you can see it live. But for the sake of this, we just have a picture. At the top, we have our downspout right here where the water is flowing in. And at the very top, there is a leaf eater, and that is a type of screen. And that's just keeping the leaves. This one happens to be under a nice shedding tree and drops a whole ton of leaves every year on it. So we have this nice screen to keep those from going into our tank and to keep out mosquitoes and any other critters that might want to get to the water. So this protects our water system. At the other side on the top, we have a depth gauge, and that just lets us see what percentage of the tank is full. This is an optional accessory, it's not really needed. But the main part of the system is, our inflow where the water's coming in, our overflow where the water flows once we have a full tank. And then we have this output on the bottom. So you can see on the bottom, we have one output that's set up for a hose, which is this first picture. And you just turn on that ball valve and water comes out the hose. Or in the bottom picture, it's set up to actually garden with a drip irrigation system. And so those are set on timers. So there's different ways that you can run your output and different things you can consider. This tank is also strapped for earthquake proofing, both on the top and the bottom, just because it is a slimline tank and is on public property. It's always advisable to have strapping, especially if there's young kids that may decide they want to climb up on it, or because we live in an earthquake region, we just want it to be a little bit more secure. So with the inflow, there are two different ways that you can do the inflow. You can do a full diverter, like we saw in the last image, where the rain flows right into the top of the tank, and all the water from your downspout gets captured here. And the other option is what's called a partial diverter. And this is where you drill a hole in the side of your downspout. So rather than cutting your downspout, you just drill a little hole, and the water flows down the inside of your downspout, and it gets caught in this little rubber gasket, and it flows into your tank. And then when your tank fills up, it comes back out the same spot, and it goes up and over that rubber gasket and down into the middle and back down your downspout. So if you have a French drain or a downspout setup that you don't want to cut, this is an excellent option for not cutting your downspout, just drilling a hole in it. And the kit that you would buy comes with a rubber seal that you can reseal your downspout if you ever decide to remove the system. It's very important that you have screening to prevent mosquitoes. This isn't just well, Chris says I need screening. This is the state of California says I need screening, because the state of California does not want rain barrel systems to become mosquito breeding grounds or to have other critters getting into your tanks. So this is a requirement. For this type of a tank on the top, your screening would be right here, right where the pipe's coming in. And for this one on the bottom, your screening would be right here. So the other thing to think about is your overflow. You want it as high on the barrel as you can get it, because if you have it lower on the barrel, the top of the barrel is not going to fill. Everything below the overflow is going to stay in the barrel. Everything above the overflow is going to flow out the overflow. You need to connect that on your property. You can't just decide that you want to flood your neighbor's yard. You got to connect it on your own property and make sure you have adequate drainage, some sort of a swale or garden, something that's going to be able to soak up that rain, or connect it back into your pre-existing downspout. And the overflow also needs screening because mosquitoes can fly up that pipe as well. So screening on both of these openings. So the next thing we're going to talk about is output. You can think about how you want to use your water. So do you want to use drip irrigation? Do you want to have it set up on a timer like this top picture? Or do you want to go out there and manually water and turn it on your own every time so that you can see exactly how it's running? Or do you want to water with a hose, a gravity system with a hose, so you just get as much pressure as the water and the gravity provides? Or do you want to use a pump to get a little bit more pressure? These are just personal choices for your system and how you want to use it. You'll notice that with the drip irrigation, there is a filter here before my drip system. It's a very fine filter just to get any debris, pollen, anything that may have gotten into the tank. I don't want it to clog up my drip irrigation system. So that prevents it from clogging up my drip irrigation. There's maybe a clearer image of that filter in this bottom picture. You know, if you want to use watering cans, you may want to set up a spigot that's a little bit higher up on the system, maybe not at the very bottom of the tank, so that you can fill a watering can easily. And there's lots of options on how you're going to use that water. It's very specific to you. A lot of people ask me about roof types. So with roof types, almost all roof types can be used for rainwater harvesting. You can use a metal roof, it's the most efficient, but you cannot use a galvanized roof just because we don't want the galvanized is going to rust over time. We don't want that to end up in our water. But copper roof or other metal roofs are fine. Ceramic or clay is great. The ones you want to think about is if you have wood, cedar, shakes, or shingles, you may want to just talk to the manufacturer and find out when they're first installed how they're treated. Some wooden shakes are treated annually, and as the homeowner, you should know if you're treating your roof annually. And if you are treating it with an herbicide or pesticide, you probably don't want to capture that water and put it on your garden, because you're putting an herbicide or a pesticide on there to kill plants, and it's not going to be healthy for your garden. Asphalt shingles are actually great for landscape irrigation, but if you get a new roof put on with asphalt shingles, you don't want to connect your system for the first couple of rains, because the roof is going to shed in the first couple of rains, and then afterwards it should be fine. And you can talk to the manufacturer and just find out what the timeline is before it'll stop shedding. So if you do have questions about roof types or barrel anatomy, feel free to type those in or ask them at the end. Along with just considering how you want your system to be, there are ways to get a larger barrel capacity. Maybe you don't have room for that giant 500-gallon tank that you really want, but you have a nice thin area where you could connect multiple tanks together to get a larger system size. And that's called daisy chaining. So you can see in these pictures, and the picture on the left, they're actually daisy chained underneath. So the water all comes in the first barrel, And as the barrel fills, water flows underneath into the next barrel, and all 4 of these barrels fill simultaneously. And it's the same for these 2 barrels on the left. They're daisy chained on the bottom. So when one barrel fills, the water flows straight out of that barrel and into the other one and keeps the water level as it fills. So if the water level's here, it'll be the same on both tanks until it fills and goes out of its overflow. Once you get over 200 gallons for that system, you qualify for the top tier rebate. So you don't need to get a 200-gallon tank by itself. You could get 4 50-gallon tanks to get that 200-gallon system for the larger rebate. So we've talked about a couple of these things that you want to consider when choosing your system. So you want to think about your roof size or harvesting potential. You want to think about your number of downspouts. You want to think about your installation space, your uses for your water, where you're going to overflow it to, what it looks like, and cost. You know, some barrels may not be as attractive as others. I love this barrel that's hand painted here. I'm not an artist. I could never paint that on a barrel. But the idea of having that next to my garden is very appealing because it almost blends in with the garden and it's just very attractive. There are other options like wine barrels that are not covered by the rebate, but are also very attractive. This is a recycled olive barrel in this picture, so it is covered by the rebate. So think about, do the math, think about how big your roof is and how much water you can capture. And so if you have a really, really tiny roof, you may not want to put that 500-gallon tank on it. But if you have a really huge roof and all you want is a 50-gallon tank, that's fine. It's going to fill. If 50-gallon tank will fill off of a very small shed. It's going to fill. So think about how much water you want to use, how much space you have, and think about where you're going to set it, because water weighs a lot. Water weighs over 8 pounds per gallon. So when we're talking about 50 or 100 gallons or more, it gets very heavy. So you can't be just set these anywhere and cross your fingers. You need a solid, sturdy base. If you already have a concrete pad, that's great. If you don't, just, you don't want any organic material, you don't want any mulch under them. You just want the dirt, and then you can fill in with gravel, or put cinder blocks there to help get you a little bit of height and to get it nice and level, to make sure you have a nice level system so that the tank will be secure. Let's talk a little bit about accessories. And I am going to answer one of these questions right now. So it says, can rain barrels be used for storage of water for use in the summer months? Absolutely. Depending on how big your system is, you're going to have enough water for the summer. If all you have is a 50-gallon tank and you want to water 300 plants with it, you're probably going to run out very quickly in the beginning of the summer. So sizing your system, getting enough water captured that you can last a little bit longer is very important. And I'm not sure if I just lost my internet connection or if everything's just freezing up. But we're going to move forward to rain barrel accessories.
I think we just lost you for a second.
Okay, and my slides skip forward multiple slides. Okay, where did you lose me at? Okay, Jeanette, did you guys hear all about sizing your system?
So we kind of lost you at the end of discussing summer storage.
Okay, so yeah, summer storage, you just want to think about how much water you're going to need over the summer and how much water you need to capture to make that happen. So, you know, a 50-gallon tank is going to be great if you're trying to water a very small planter box all summer. But if you're trying to water a very large garden or a bunch of roses, it's maybe not going to be as effective because you're going to need more water than 50 gallons can give you for the whole summer. So just thinking about how much you need and sizing your system accordingly. Oftentimes people do make up water in their tanks. So they'll get through, you know, they may get through June and July and part of August and have a drip irrigation system that's hooked up to their rain barrels, but not have enough water to get through the end of August or September before we get the next rain. And so what you can do is fill your tank or partially fill your tank with municipal water so the drip irrigation system will still run. And then you are still using significantly less municipal water, but it's called makeup water. So you're just making up the amount that you weren't able to capture. So I'm going to move on and talk about some accessories. So these are optional things that you can add on to your tank. Just like, you know, if you're accessorizing your earrings or your shoes or whatever as you're going out, your tank may want to look a little bit more spiffy. Or there may be different reasons that you want specific accessories. So with a leaf feeder, it can act as your screening for certain sites like the one in Palo Alto at Gamble Gardens. And there's just so much debris coming down on top of that tank. It was really important that we have the leaf feeder to be able to more easily clean and filter out the leaves. For some sites where the building's in the middle of nowhere and there are no trees, the simple screen that's on the tank is more than adequate. But most of the tanks that have screens, you have to undo screws to take it out. So they're a little bit harder to clean. The leaf feeder is very easy to clean. A first flush diverter is a great way to filter out smaller dust and particulate. So if you live in a very dusty area near a highway or a high particulate area out on a farm somewhere where, you know, near horses or near dusty trails, this might be a good option just to get less dust in your system. They do need to be cleaned a little bit more than a normal system. You just have the bottom just unscrews, and the way they work is water flows in the top. As the water fills, this ball in the middle floats up and it goes up to the top and seals. And so all the first water flows in and has all the dirt and everything gets kind of stuck on the bottom. And then once the ball floats up, the rest of the water goes into your tank. And so that water, in theory, is a little bit cleaner because the first flush of rain gets the worst of the pollutants off your roof. And so after that first flush gets captured in this tube, the cleaner water from your roof and later rain from your roof goes into your tank. Again, it's an optional to add, and it is really good for high dust areas, especially if you want to connect up to a drip irrigation system, which you need slightly cleaner water with less particulates in. The depth gauge, I've seen people use the remote ones when they're traveling to be able to know how much water's in there because they have a little camera on it so they can read what percentage is left and ask a neighbor to go up and fill it up if they have an automated watering system, drip irrigation set up to the tank. These are also really great for people with kids or schools because the kids get really excited about checking how much water's in the tank. For me personally, I don't have one of these on my tank. I just tap the side, and when it goes from sounding like a thunk to sounding like a hollow noise, that's where the water level is. So you can really hear it just tapping up the side of your tank. It's very optional. Some people really prefer to have a little more water pressure, so they get an on-demand pump to use. it's totally personal preference. If you do have a very small tank and you want to water plants that are more than 20 feet away, the pump gives you the pressure you need to make it the distance. 50-gallon tank, really, you don't want to water more than 20 feet away from it. It's just not going to have great pressure. So this would allow you to water a little bit farther away. Okay, do I need a permit? This is the other big question I get. If you are fully plumbed to the exterior of a single family home and you are under 360 gallons, and that is 360 connected gallons, so either one tank or small tanks daisy chained together. But if you want to put 4 200-gallon tanks on different downspouts, those are all separate systems if they are not piped to each other. So this is talking about only systems that are interconnected to each other, like the daisy chain systems I showed you earlier, or a single tank. You do not need a permit. If you are going to use drip irrigation without a pump and without a plumbed makeup water supply, you can go all the way up to 4,999 gallons with a drip irrigation system. So at that point, you are no longer, you're over 360 gallons, you're no longer watering with a hose, you're no longer watering with a watering can, you are using drip irrigation, and you're not using a pump or connecting any water to it. If you want to connect the tank in any way to municipal water for it to automatically supply, or to have a drip irrigation system that switches between your rain tank and municipal water, you do need a permit to do that, because you can't connect to the municipal water supply with the rain tank in any way without a permit. If you want to do a below ground system, you're going to need a permit. And if for some reason you want to connect to interior plumbing, one of the best examples of this is if you want to be able to flush your toilet with rainwater, you need a permit. It's a great use of rainwater, but realistically, most of the water you're going to be able to capture, you're going to have wonderful use for in your garden. So it may not be worth the time of trying to get a permit to hook it up to your interior plumbing, because the amount of water you're going to be able to capture may not be adequate for fully flushing your toilets. For more information, you can check out the plumbing code in chapter 16, which has a very detailed list of everything. These are just the main ones. In answer to the next question I see on the screen, about installing rain barrels around a condo building, that does get you into the permitting issue, because it is not a single family home. So as soon as you're on a commercial building, you will most likely need a permit to be able to hook up a system. So it is a little bit more difficult to do if you're not at a single family home. I say single family home, duplexes also count within that single family home rating. Let's talk a little bit about maintenance. So one of the things that I like to say is they are a lot easier to maintain than a standard system. Clean your gutters twice a year. Again, that's not Chris says, that's the state of California says. But it's also a really good idea to have clean gutters, because if you get a lot of buildup and leaves and things growing in your gutters, they're going to get heavy and they could rip off the side of your house. So it's good to keep them clean anyway. But especially if you want to capture rainwater, clean them twice a year. Check and empty your leaf eater and clean your screening at least 4 times a year. So every 3 months. Just, mostly if your barrel system's visible and you have a leaf eater, you're going to see it. It's going to be really easy to walk over and just knock the screen off, take a glove and just wipe it off. If you have a first flush diverter, you have to clean it at least twice a year, but it's kind of more ideal if you clean it between storms because it's gonna get pretty gunged up. Because that's its job is to take all that dirt. Visually inspect valves and components. This one is very specifically a state of California, and this is how it is worded. So once a year. But if your system isn't next to your house, you're going to be walking by it at least once a week. So visually, you're going to notice that what, if anything's wrong. Use your system and, clean out the barrels maybe every 5 years or so. Just rinse them out a little bit, get any debris in the bottom flowed out. So very, very minimal maintenance, very easy to take care of. Use your water. We've kind of talked about a lot of this. The main thing is, think about using your water in between every storm. Don't wait till summer to use it. If we get a rainstorm in September, use that water in September and October. It's going to rain again, hopefully, and you'll capture more. As we're getting into the end of the rainy season, that's when you want to start, maybe being a little bit more frugal with it and trying to save some for summer. But in the beginning of the rainy season, you want to use it in between rains. So we're briefly going to talk about purchasing barrels, and then we can go into some Q&A, and I have some more details on the rebates here. So I know I went a little bit fast, and I'm happy to go over anything else again, but we just want to give you a really good overview about the basics for the rain barrels. Basic kits you can order online or at a local hardware store. Most local hardware stores no longer keep them in stock on the shelf, but if you ask, they're able to order one to the store or have it shipped directly to your house. Food grade recycled barrels are great. Blue barrels or recycled olive barrels are covered under the rebate. Wine barrels are not, unfortunately. But the blue barrels are really easy, as are the olive oil barrels are really easy to set up. You can purchase the blue barrels through bluebarrelsystems.com, which is a local Santa Rosa company. You can get the wine barrels from a local winery. You can look on Craigslist or online for the other recycled barrels. They show up. They're usually very cost effective, $40 or under for the barrel. And then you can get a diverter kit like the one pictured with the partial diverter that we looked at earlier. And that has all the instructions and comes with the drill bits for drilling into the barrel. So they're very easy to install. If you're looking for a cistern, check out Urban Farmer in San Francisco or San Lorenzo Lumber in Santa Cruz. You can also try some other hardware stores. These are the two that I've had the best luck with. They generally don't need a kit to be plumbed. You generally cut the downspout and put it right in the top of the tank. Very easy. And then you can run 3-inch drain pipe for the overflow. And the output is usually a 1-inch regular pipe thread. So it's very easy to get the parts from any hardware store. So we can take some questions, and while people think about questions, you can raise your hands or type in the Q&A. And while you're thinking about them, I'm going to go over the rebate program once more. So San Mateo County rebate program is funded by Flows to Bay and participating water districts, and it's administered by BASCWA. The limit is 2 rebates per single family address or 4 rebates per multifamily or commercial address. You must follow the installation requirements, which are listed on the website, and the additional terms and conditions are also on the BASCWA website. This is a slide we looked at before for the rebate amounts. So 50 to 99 gallons is a $50 rebate. Plus, if you're in the Mid-Penn Water District, you get an additional 50. And here's a list of the other water districts and cities that also get the additional $50. So if you happen to not be part of the Mid-Penn Water District, but you're one of these other 7, you also get that additional $50 to make your whole rebate amount, what's listed here, up to $200. So for these specific rebates, they're installed in San Mateo County, minimum of 50-gallon capacity, vector control, so using the screening, and they have to be installed within 90 days of purchase. So you have to provide a copy of the receipt and a photo of it fully installed with the application. And they're just gonna look and, you know, make sure that everything looks right and that they can see the screening. Okay, so I'm happy to go over any questions if anyone has any questions for me about barrels. And
I don't see any questions.
okay, and these are the upcoming webinars for BOSQA. You can check them out at bayareaconservation.org. And there's also other ones that are going to be listed on the Flows to Bay website, as well as in-person rain barrel installations coming up later in the month through Flows to Bay, where you can get your hands dirty and learn what it's like to physically install the barrel, which makes you a little bit more prepared to go home and do it on your own.
Okay, so I have a quick question for you.
Absolutely.
So the wine barrels, why are they not allowed?
That is an excellent
That's part of the
question.
program.
I just know they're not part of the rebate. I actually don't know the exact reasoning. I have a feeling it's because they are much harder to convert than the blue barrels or the olive oil tanks. The conversion kits don't fit exact. They're also a lot harder to drill because they're extremely thick. But I'm not exactly sure. I just know that BOSQA has told me that they are not covered, and to make sure that I mention that.
I'll redirect my question towards them as they're our program administrator.
But yeah, I will say that Valley Water currently is not supporting the blue barrels for their rebate for Santa Clara County. And I have not been able to get a reason as to that either, but I'm very happy to say that BOSQA is fully supporting the blue barrels, as well as the olive oil barrels at this time. And I think they're great because blue barrels can only be used once for their intended purpose, all food grade barrels. So if you have a 50-gallon tank of olive oil that gets sent from Italy here, it can be used once and then it is no longer allowed to be used for food grade purposes. So being able to reuse it for rainwater harvesting is a great way to give that barrel a second life and a long life, because it'll last for many years as a rainwater harvesting system. So I do have a question here. Are there resources, websites on how to install a rain barrel? Is the user expected to know how to install with the accessories, etc.? Any of the accessories will come with their own installation guide. If you order a Blue Barrel kit through Blue Barrel or through any of the other systems that come with a kit, so if it says kit included, it will have the installation instructions there on the kit, and it should also have a little sticker for you that has this nice, oops, I went too far, little sticker that has this nice caution, non-potable water, do not drink sign, because that needs to be displayed on your tank. And if you get a larger tank, the easiest resource is to reach out to through the Flows to Bay website, or the BOSQA website. So we have a question for the websites. Let's see if I can put those up on the screen. That should be. It's funny. I really thought they were in here, but they're not. So let me type those in real quick for you. Okay, actually, Jeanette, you're gonna email all the participants a list with the website resources for Bosco and Flows to Bay, is that correct?
Yeah, and I just put in the chat, so it's www.bosca.org. And I'll type in a little additional information too in a sec. It's if you hover across the top menu, you'll see a conservation option, and then rebates will pop up.
Then here's the MidPen website as well, which will link you to them.
Yeah, we'll just we don't have rebate information on our website. We just direct you to Bosca. But yes, you can
Okay.
you can get it through us as well.
And the Flows to Bay one is, I feel like the Flows to Bay is the most comprehensive.
But yeah, absolutely not a problem. I can get the registration list from Christiane, and I can email all this information out to everybody tomorrow.
So Flows to Bay is flowstobay.org, and they have also some installers listed. So if you do need help installing, they have a list on their website of installers. Trying to see if I can find their rain barrel website. Here's a specific rain barrel rebate website for Flows to Bay. So if you guys take a look in the chat, you can copy those over. So we'll wait another minute for some more questions. And you're welcome to raise your hand and ask your questions if you're not sure how to type them, or if you have a very specific question. Oh, I just realized none of what I just typed, and I don't think what Jeanette typed actually went to everyone. So I'm gonna try to send that again. I don't know, did that? Can someone write in the Q&A and let me
Yeah,
know?
I'm sending again to everyone. Let's see.
There we go, perfect. Thank you. I just realized that I don't have the access to send to everyone.
Yeah, I think mine went through, just not yours.
Okay, can you send the Flows to Bay one too? Because that has a lot of
Yeah.
resources.
Yeah, let's see.
For nonprofit organizations to purchase in bulk for their program participants and get rebates, that is an excellent question. I do not know the answer to that. Jeanette, do you know about that?
I'm sorry, repeat that one more time. I was typing.
Are there options for nonprofit organizations to purchase barrels in bulk for their program participants and get the rebates?
So I think what Bosco would say to that is check with the individual agency. Because I know with our Lawn Be Gone rebates, we have some flexibility. So I think their response to that would be you'd have to check directly with the agency. For example, I could tell you us, Mid-Peninsula Water, would consider that, yes. But not
Okay.
every agency would.
And I do know other agencies will allow the participating organization to apply for the rebate, but not for the nonprofit too, if they're supplying in bulk. So it definitely does depend on where you're located.
And I can just add to Cal Water, for example, who we're situated in Belmont, is on both sides of us, San Carlos and San Mateo. They don't participate in all of Bosca's programs. Some agencies in our area, Santa Clara County, Alameda, San Mateo, have their own programs.
And there are, if you, I do think that for the most part, especially these smaller systems are very easy to do it yourself and to install in your own home. If you are hesitant to do that, there are many videos out there that you can watch and see how it's done. And if you order through Blue Barrel Systems, they have their own training videos that they've created that are very detailed and walk you through everything step by step. So if you're at all hesitant, they make it very easy to do. If you purchase from them, they give you a access code to their website and a treasure trove of videos.
Any last questions? If not, I'd like to thank everyone for joining tonight. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulties. I'm always an attendee and never a host. This is actually the second time I've ever hosted. So thanks for your patience this evening. And Chris, of course, thanks so much for providing our instruction this evening.
Absolutely.
We got a question.
There are programs so the question is, are there options for low-income families that can't afford to purchase the barrel prior to the rebate? And I know that there are currently programs that are taking applicants for East Palo Alto right now, and I'm sure there are programs in other cities, but they are city specific. I don't know, Jeanette, does Mid-Penn have any program like that right now?
We do not.
Okay, so they are very much city specific or region specific, and they come and go. They often have a certain number that they can handle per program, and when that fills up, there's some time before they run another one.
And I will just mention too, in the past, state of California did this with Long Be Gone rebates during the last drought that we had, the 2014 through 2017 drought. They had some funding. I haven't heard about anything with rain barrels, anything similar, but you can always saveourwater.org or com. I can't remember which it is, but it's a state website, or if you just go out there and do a search. I know that they did offer during the last drought lawn replacement as for low income option. So, but I haven't really heard anything on rain barrels.
The next question is, how long is the rebate program? I'm wondering if you're asking how long it's going to be offered for, or if how long you have to apply for it. The rebate program has been going on for quite a few years. I don't believe there's plans to cancel it, at least within the next year. That being said, if you want to apply for the rebate, there is a 90-day window. So you need to purchase your barrel and install it and apply for the rebate within those 90 days. So from the point of purchasing your barrel to the point of applying for the rebate after it's installed, you do have a 90-day window. And they do have you send in pictures with the application to show that it's properly installed.
All right, let's do a final call here for questions.
Well, thank you all for joining us. And again, if you are interested in seeing some barrels installed in person, there will be a program coming up probably at the end of the month in South San Francisco that will be open to the public, and you can register through the Flows to Bay website, but the registration has not gone live yet. So just keep an eye out for that. And
as we're entering into the rainy season as well, now would be the perfect time to go buy those rain barrels as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I guess that's it. Thanks again, Chris, for everything. And again, everyone, for your patience this evening. And check out some more. We've got this slide up here for some additional classes coming up. So there's, looks like lawn, there's one on design, some pest management, succulents, and drought tolerant habitat gardens. Thanks again, everyone.
Have a nice night.
You as well. Take care. Bye.